you know you could get freckles in your eye? I sure didn't.
Hi, I'm Ross Wither, and I have ocular melanoma.
Almost 16 years ago, I was on my back deck shooting a BB gun at targets I had set up, and I got a little bored and started shooting at random things around the yard, and unfortunately I shot at a rock that was a little too close to me, and the BB ricocheted and hit me in the eye. Yes, I know, Christmas story, you'll shoot your eye out, kid. I got really lucky. It didn't actually damage my eye. I went back inside. I said, that was really bleeping stupid. And then I went to the bathroom and cleaned out my eye, and thankfully the BB rolled right out from under my eyelid and went down the drain. But as a precaution, I went and saw an eye doctor anyway. That eye doctor told me that everything was fine. He couldn't see any damage, but he warned that there may be some type of residual scarring that forms later that he couldn't see. About 11 years ago, I started seeing light in a weird way in my right eye. It was almost like I was looking at a document scanner without the cover closed, and it was just light that went up the inside of my eye and then across the top to the outside, and I assumed that it was that residual scarring and possible damage that hadn't been seen by the optometrist, but it wasn't affecting my daily life, so I just let it go. I didn't think I needed to see the eye doctor. I'd never needed glasses before in my life, and I'd never had a problem reading, and I just figured my eyes were fine. I am in my 40s, and my eyes are not quite what they used to be, and I was starting to have some trouble reading at night, and so I figured I would go for a regular eye check. Early on in this process, first doctor that originally diagnosed me with choroidal lesion, which is doctor speak for uveal melanoma. And the ophthalmologist told me that I had a detached retina and sent me to a retinal specialist, who then confirmed that I had a mass growing on my eye. They sent me to a specialist who confirmed a diagnosis of uveal melanoma. The doctor told me the priorities were, number 1, save my life. Number 2, save my eye. Number 3, save my sight, if it's possible. Plaque brachytherapy is the standard procedure for treating uveal melanoma. They essentially take a solid gold plaque and they put these little beads on it, these little grains of radioactive material, and they set it up in such a way that the amount of radiation that's penetrating down and the area around, like the area that it's covering, is custom fit to that patient's tumor. So I get my own personal eye grill. The short version of my journey, I was diagnosed with uveal melanoma in August of 2024, and I traveled initially to Houston to see a doctor there. I was actually in the process of getting ready for the plaque brachytherapy treatment. I was actually on the gurney, had the hairnet on my head, an IV going, and I coughed. And the anesthesiologist heard my cough, and she didn't like the sound of it, so she came over and checked me and told me, unfortunately, I can't let you go through with the procedure. It's not safe. You need to get yourself checked out for a possible respiratory infection. And it turned out I did have a lower respiratory infection, so thank you. After the disappointment of not being able to go through the surgery, we kind of stepped back and regrouped. And then I received a call from the doctor that gave me some news I definitely wasn't expecting. The tumor had grown, and they did not have a plaque that was big enough to cover it, and to ensure that the outside margins were covered. Basically making sure that they got the whole thing in one shot. So what they proposed doing was a 2-stage plaque procedure, where they would do essentially like half of the tumor in one procedure, and then 6 weeks or so later they'd do the other half. I wasn't exactly thrilled with the idea of going in for surgery that many times. 4 times. Once to put it in, once to take it out, and then again, once to put it in, once to take it out. But I decided to find out what some of my options were, and I found, well, I should say my wife discovered this study that was being done at numerous locations across the country, and she made it her personal mission to get me into this study. And Thankfully, the Mayo Clinic was able to get me in, and I'm now under the treatment of a doctor there, and it's been a wonderful experience all around. And at this point, after 6 months of medication, my tumor has decreased in thickness by nearly 50%. I've learned a lot more from having ocular melanoma than I ever thought I wanted to know. I've learned more about me and the inside of what my body looks like through CT scans and MRIs every few months. I have become very accustomed to the sight of my own blood going into test tubes, and I have learned that it is quite possible to get cancer in your eye that actually mimics skin cancer. That's why it's uveal melanoma. Melanoma is a skin cancer, and this acts just like skin cancer in your eye. It develops from freckles in your eye. Did you know you could get freckles in your eye? I sure didn't. If you've recently gotten a diagnosis for uveal melanoma, the best advice that I can give you is don't give up hope. There's a lot of really scary numbers and information, but there are people out there that have beaten this. There are people out there doctors and nurses making huge strides in the treatment and detection of this exact cancer. And there is hope. So don't lose sight of that. I feel so lucky to be involved. I can't thank my family and my friends, the doctors and nurses and technicians and secretaries and everybody that's been involved. If you've never been to the Mayo Clinic, there's so many people doing so many things, and they all seem to do it so well and mix together and do it all simultaneously so well. It's just incredible. So thank you to everyone involved. It has been an incredible journey, and thank you. The next step is in a few days. My family all piles into our van, and we drive halfway across the country. We will drop our children off with some very close family friends, and then my wife and I will make the journey westward from there back to Minnesota so that I can have my plaque placed on the 16th of June. And it will then be removed on the 20th of June, and then we will start a trip back to New Jersey, and then eventually back home to Baton Rouge. And then I start the road to recovery, and hopefully with treatment I will find that I don't lose very much of the vision in that eye. So when people think about the cost of all this, you immediately think about insurance and doctors and hospital bills and things like that, but the biggest expense for me so far has been travel. Either an airline ticket or renting a car and driving up myself. There's absolutely nobody in my state that treats this specific type of cancer. It's all very expensive. It totals up pretty quick. Thankfully, someone from an organization reached out to us. Ashley from Eye on Grace saw my wife's post and offered help. And I have to be honest, when my wife first told me about this, we both thought it was a scam. Because everything on Facebook is a scam these days. But it's not. Ashley and her organization are they're so amazing. And they have almost single-handedly made my entire treatment journey possible. There is no way on God's green earth that I would have been able to afford to get back and forth to the Mayo Clinic once a month by myself without any help. And I am so grateful, and my family is so grateful, because at this point, you've saved my life. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Someone's cutting onions out here. I don't know what's going on. Damn onion ninjas. All right. So I'm a little bit late to this party. Ocular Melanoma Awareness Month was actually the month of May. I was preparing for and executing travel across the country from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to Rochester, Minnesota to seek care at the Mayo Clinic. And so I ran out of time and unfortunately was not able to do the challenge. So I, Ross Wither, do hereby humbly accept the eye patch challenge. Better late than never. There we go. I'm so sorry I'm late. Ion Grace has partnered with another organization who has committed to matching funds for all donations through June 15th up to $100,000 for travel grant recipients like me. So please, if you can give, please donate.